Hey there, thanks for being here. It's already time again for the monthly Cape Coral real estate market update video. I do one of these every month, and they're a little bit longer videos because we're really going to dive in to the statistics and the facts and the figures of the Cape Coral real estate market. I'll give you kind of an overview of what the market's been doing here, and then we'll really dive in and start to break things down by different categories. So we're going to look at non-waterfront single-family homes. Of course, we're going to look at Gulf access homes. That's everyone's favorite category here in Cape Coral. And then we're also going to touch on condos and see how condos have been doing, as well as vacant residential lots. And then I'm going to wrap everything up at the end with some advice if maybe you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market here in 2025, as well as some advice if maybe you're a seller in a little bit tougher real estate market here in Cape Coral in 2025. So make sure you stick around and see that advice at the end, and I'll kind of give you an overall summary as we finish up this video. But if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a longtime resident of Cape Coral in Southwest Florida. I've been a full-time real estate broker here in this area for, almost 20 years now. And again, I do one of these market update videos every single month, but these are in addition to just weekly videos that I put out. Every single week I'm putting out a new video. Usually it's on just really good informational topics on something to do with Southwest Florida or Cape Coral. Last week, I was giving you a really important update on the city's utilities that are moving into the northern areas of the city and the assessments that are going in there. So if you didn't catch that video, pop on the channel there and go back and take a look at that, especially if you're in the market for something in the northwest or northeast sections of Cape Coral. But I'm just trying to provide a lot of value and a lot of good information with these videos for you, just in the hopes that if I can provide some value for you, give you some good information, that you're going to remember me when the time does come and you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, whether you're buying or selling a property. And of course, my contact information is right there on the screen, but it's also down in the description of this video. And I would love it if you call, text, or emailed me anytime. I would love to hear about your individual real estate goals and tell you a little bit about how I can help you out with those. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the March Cape Coral real estate market update video. As I do every single month, I always like to start out just for fun by showing you the lowest sales of the entire city of Cape Coral for last month, and then we'll also touch on the highest, most expensive sales of the month. And again, we're talking about March of 2025. Let's jump right into it with the lowest sales of the month. All right, so the lowest sales of the month, again, this is for February 2025, but we're talking about the entire city of Cape Coral. Lowest sales of the month in a couple different categories, or a few different categories. Let's start off with the lowest condo that sold last month. This is the lowest residential property that sold in the entire month of February for all of Cape Coral. And it's this one over here in the Southwest, 4513 Southwest 8th Court, Unit 111. This is in the Contemporary condo complex, just a smaller condo complex down there off of Skyline and just north of Skyline Boulevard and just north of Cape Coral Parkway. This property was on the market for a little bit at $125,000. It's just a little one bedroom, one bath, just over 750 square feet of living area in it, built back in the early 80s. And this thing was pending for a while, but it came back on because apparently the buyer's financing got a little dicey there and could not get approved for financing. And that's very much likely because of the association. The association, the fees are only $400 a month, but I don't believe that includes insurance. And if they're not keeping a certain amount of reserves and they're not covering insurance and things like that, sometimes a little difficult to get these little condos financed. Tough to get a mortgage on these things. But this one finally did sell. Again, it was listed at $125,000 and ended up closing just under $100,000. We haven't seen too many any kind of residential property close for under $100,000, but this one closed at $95,000 back just on February 3rd, and that happened to be the lowest condo sale, the lowest overall residential sale of the month for the entire city of Cape Coral. $95,000 for this little one bedroom, one bath condo. Didn't look too awfully bad, so congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on the low condo sale of the month. All right, let's talk about the lowest single family home sale. And again, we're in the Southwest. I think last month everything was in the Southeast, but this month everything is in the Southwest so far as the low sales go. This one is at 3930 Southwest Santa Barbara Place, not Boulevard, Place. It's one street over one street to the west of Santa Barbara Boulevard, and this one was listed at $199,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, little home, 1,410 square feet of living area, built in 1985, and it needed a ton of work. First of all, it was a wood frame construction, which is sort of an inferior type of construction to, say, concrete block, which is the majority of our homes here in Cape Coral are built from concrete block walls. But this one was wood frame, and it needed a new roof. And gosh, with the way it sold, I mean, it was listed at $199,000, ended up selling for $140,000. I'm thinking there was probably some things that came up in the inspections on that one, maybe even some mold. For it to drop at such a discount. It was only on the market for 24 days before it went under contract. So I'm thinking that something was turned up in that inspection that wasn't maybe previously known to the sellers, and buyer got a further discount than he otherwise would have. Most likely a mold situation. That's what it looks like, at least to me. Definitely needed a new roof, and it needed a bunch of other things. But nevertheless, $140,000 for a single family home. That's an incredibly good deal. We haven't seen that under $150,000 mark for a while. Even the ones that had fire damage and things like that typically have been in the at least upper 100s. So $140,000, nothing to shake a stick at, even in this little bit softer market. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on $140,000 single family home sale, which was the lowest of the month, sold right at the end of February. All right, I've been doing this in recent months just for fun. Let's look at the lowest golf access home that sold last month. Obviously, we're very well known for our golf access homes here in the city of Cape Coral. We've got well over 400 miles of navigable canals here, and a lot of those are golf access. So let's take a look at this. And actually, you may remember this one because I actually covered this one in a video. It was actually a pretty popular video because I showed this house maybe 4 or 5 different times. It was a Looked like it was about halfway through a remodel, but it was a little home over just off of Del Prado Boulevard, just east of Del Prado Boulevard on 2014 Southeast 12th Terrace, there in the southeast. And this was a direct golf access home. It didn't have a pool or anything like that, but it was on a direct access canal over there, listed at $395,000. They had it listed for quite a while. In fact, it was on the market for over a year, and they had walked the price down considerably. And as I recall, the situation was they got about halfway through a remodel there, and unfortunately the seller had passed away suddenly, and so was not able to finish that rehab. And they needed a cash buyer pretty much to come in and finish out that rehab. But it overall wasn't a terrible property. It was just in a flood zone over there, listed at $395,000, and ended up selling it again for a pretty steep discount. $330,000 was the lowest golf access home sale of the month last month. And last month we didn't get below $400,000 for golf access home sales. So I think somebody picked that up for a pretty decent price at $330,000 in spite of everything that needed to be done inside of there. And you could go in there and put a pool in there and have a really, really nice direct sailboat access home there in the southeast, right off of Del Prado, for a pretty decent price. But $330,000. Congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on that home. That's a pretty great purchase for a southeast direct access home here in the city of Cape Coral. And that wraps it up for our lowest sales of the month. So let's take a look at the fun ones. That's the highest sales, the most expensive sales of the month of February 2025 in the city of Cape Coral. All right, highest sales of the month of February 2025 for the entire city of Cape Coral. We'll kind of follow that same pattern with these categories and start off with the highest condo sale of the month of February. And once again, I think maybe 3 out of the last 4 months, Tarpon Point Marina down there, Tarpon Landings, one of the high rises there at Tarpon Point Marina, have consistently been the highest condo sale of the month, and this one is no exception. 6061 Silver King Boulevard, Unit 901, that's up on the 9th floor, so one of the higher levels up there. And if you're not familiar with Tarpon Landings and Tarpon Point Marina down there, these high rises, these units are really, really large as far as condos go. This unit was just under 3,100 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom plus a den, 4 baths, actually 3.5 baths, and those towers were built in 2007, and they're just super nice right there on the water. They've got excellent views out there, and obviously this was a really nice unit. This unit was listed at 1.67 million, and it was on the market for a while, almost a year. In fact, when you account for the time that it was pending, it actually was over a year, 390 days on the market. But it ended up selling not too far off of list price, 1.5 million off of that 1.67 list price, and that was by far the highest condo sale of the month of February. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on the sale of this absolutely stunning condo. And even at $1.5 million, when you go down to places like Bonita Springs or Naples and you look at some of those towers that are down there and what those condos are selling for, $3, $4, $5+ million condos down there on waterfront that looks just like this. That's why I always tell people the best bang for your buck in all different categories of properties really is Cape Coral. You can get a really beautiful waterfront luxury high-rise like this for considerably less money than you can in other areas of Florida. So congratulations on the buyers and the sellers. $1.5 million was the highest condo sale of the month of February 2025. Before I get to the highest of overall, let's look at the highest non-waterfront single-family home sale. So we did lowest Gulf access. We'll do the highest off-water single-family home sale. And we're in the Northwest. We're up in my neighborhood, believe it or not, here up in the Northwest. Brand new property up here in the Northwest, 3311 Northwest 1st Street. This is in that area west of Burnt Store Road. It's over in a community of really nice Gulf access homes. A lot of the homes are brand new or had been put in the last few months. And that area actually has the central water and sewer already in. The assessments came through there, the utilities came through there a few years ago, and not all, very small amount of the Northwest actually has utilities like this, but this area does. And this property was listed at $885,000, brand new. Again, got certificate of occupancy in 2024. It was on the market for only 18 days. It was a 4-bedroom plus a den, 4 bathrooms, 3 1/2 baths. Just over 2,600 square feet of living area. It's a really beautiful, stunning home right there, but listed at $885,000, sold in less than 3 weeks for $865,000 right at the end of February. And hey, I really love the Northwest. As you can tell from a lot of my videos, I really have a passion for this area up here. I really feel like, especially this area west of Burnt Store Road, where some of this waterfront and some of these new commercial projects are coming in, like the Seven Islands project. I really think that's going to revolutionize the Northwest section of Cape Coral, and our area up here is going to look an awful lot like the Southwest, some of those really nice waterfront areas in the Southwest do now here in just a few years. So keep your eye on the Northwest Cape. I think we're doing big things out here. But congratulations to the buyers and the sellers. The highest non-waterfront sale of the month last month, $865,000 for this brand new construction home in the Northwest Cape. All right, let's get to the big guy. This is the biggest overall. It's always a Gulf access home, and it's no exception this month. But the highest sale of the month of February 2025 was this riverfront palace right here at 3141 Southeast 22nd Place. This is a beautiful home on a gigantic corner lot. Was listed at $3 million. It's just over 4,100 square feet of living area on a third of an acre there. Has about twice as much actual water frontage because it sits on the corner there between the river itself and then a big canal that goes in. So you got kind of the best of both worlds. You got the big water views over across the river, but you've got a little more protected area where you can keep your dock and your boat. But this house was listed for $3 million. It was only on the market for 48 days, and it sold for pretty close to list price, $2.825. Again, 4 bedrooms plus a den and 4 full bathrooms. It wasn't a brand new property. This house was built in 1991, but this is just a really solid neighborhood over there. This is the Cornwallis neighborhood, so it's east of Del Prado Boulevard, south of Veterans. Actually just put a property under contract for some clients just in this neighborhood gosh, 4 or 5 days ago, maybe last week. Really nice house that they're under contract with over there. So Adam, if you're watching this by any chance, you got some new neighbors over there in this Cornwallis neighborhood. 2.825 for this riverfront wonderful home there on that corner lot. So definitely congratulations to the buyers and the sellers for the highest sale of the month of February 2025 for the city of Cape Coral, $2.825 million. Most of last year we had gotten over $3 million almost every single month, and I anticipate if we as we get into the higher months of our main season here, the spring months, we're going to see some $3+ and maybe even some $4+ million sales here coming up in the next couple of months. So make sure you stay tuned, make sure you stay subscribed to this channel so you can see these fun sales every single month on these Cape Coral market reports. But anyway, that wraps up the highest sales of the month of February for the entire city of Cape Coral. And now let's go ahead and jump into the statistics of the market. I always start off with just some of the general stats. We'll knock those out, and then we'll really start to break things down by category. So let's get into the general stats of February 2025. All right, so the overview, the very general stats of the entire residential Cape Coral real estate market. We're going to be talking numbers across all different categories of residential properties. And then again, after we get through with this, we'll start to break things down by different categories. But the total residential real estate market for the city of Cape Coral last month in February 2025. Let's start out with the number of sales. And again, this is just residential single-family homes and condos, basically. So we're not talking about lots yet or anything like that. This is basically just a livable unit. Also doesn't include duplexes and things like that. Pretty much just single-family homes, townhomes, and condos. But the total number of sales last month was 367 in the entire city of Cape Coral. Here's the 2-year graph. Here's what that looks like. You know, it takes a couple of months of us getting into season before we really start to ramp up and start having some bigger numbers. As you can imagine, people don't really shop for real estate as much in November and December. And the properties that go under contract in November and December end up closing in January and possibly February. So when people are dealing with the holidays in November and December, they're not too often shopping for real estate. So we have usually a little bit lower numbers in January, and then it starts to ramp up as we get into February, and then we really hit our stride in March, April, May, and even June. And you can kind of see how that pattern plays out the last couple of years here on this graph. But 367 was up from January's number. January, we only sold 301 properties. If you take February 2025's number and look at the same months in the last 2 years, the middle of this graph right here was February 2024. We sold 433 properties. So we're a full 66 short of the pace that we were setting last year, at least in this month. This past month, represents about a 15.2% reduction. But again, you know, we're oftentimes a little bit slower in January and February, and then we really ramp up, as you can tell on this graph, March, April, and May. So I'm fully expecting this number to go up considerably as we get into next month's report. And in fact, I took a peek at the pendings over the last 30 days. So properties that went pending in the last 30 days, and there were 652 of them, and 378 of those were just in the last 2 weeks. So we are really, really getting into the meat of season at this point, and I anticipate some of those 652 properties that went pending in the last 30 days are going to be starting to close as we start to look at March and then April's numbers. So stay tuned for that. If we go back 2 years ago, 421. So we actually sold more properties last year than in 2023 in the month of February. So, you know, this goes up and down. We sold just about the same amount of properties last year as we did in 2023. In some categories, we actually sold a few more in 2024 versus 2023. And I fully expect to probably equal last year's number this season, although we'll see if we can still keep these interest rates down that's gonna help things out tremendously. But 367 total residential sales in the month of February, and let's break down what those numbers look like in terms of sale prices. So this is the total median price for the entire residential Cape Coral real estate market. Here's the graph for it. This is, again, a 2-year graph. Median price for everything in the residential Cape Coral real estate market last month was $389,000. And that's up a fair amount from January's number. January was only $365,000. And you know, this number jumps up and down a little bit month to month, depending on, you know, whether or not a few more higher dollar sales happen than in lower priced categories. But overall, I mean, you can pretty much tell we've been on a gradual decline in the last really 18 months, maybe 24 months. Again, this graph goes all the way back to February 2023. So 389,000. If you want to take last February's number, last February's median price was at 400,000. So that represents about a 2.8% reduction in 12 months. And if you look all the way back in February of 2023, that median price was $405,000. So that represents a 2-year decline of about 4%. But again, these figures kind of go up and down a little bit. I think if you averaged everything out, we're probably looking around a 2-year correction at this point of about 8%. I think that's about where our sale values have gone down roughly. So if you looked at the same property 2 years ago, you could probably expect to sell that property for 6 to 8% less today versus 2 years ago. And I think a lot of that reduction happened in the last 12 months. I think the last 12 months we've gone down a little more than the previous 12 months. But again, this is the entire city of Cape Coral, and we're going to start to break down these numbers. There's some categories that have gone in excess of that, some not so much. So we'll get into that here in just a second. But let's talk about probably the most important thing in the Cape Coral real estate market right now, and that's the inventory. We are just getting battered with way too much inventory. By inventory, I just mean active properties that are out there on the market right now. And this is the graph. This is the 2-year graph of properties that had an active status at some point during February, or during these previous, in the 2 years, month to month in the previous 2 years. And February's number was the high point on this 2-year chart, 4,918 actives on the market in the month of February. Now I need to mention that the way my system calculates this is just any property that had an active status at some point during the month. This doesn't mean that we had 4,918 properties sitting on the market right now. In fact, I took a peek at it this morning. There's only 4,006 properties on the market. Still a ton of properties on the market, don't get me wrong. But it's not quite the almost 5,000 properties this chart represents. So this is just, I don't like the way they do that. I'm not sure how they could do that a little bit better. But at least you'll get the idea that we're definitely at a high point for the last 2 years, and probably could go all the way back to you know, the Great Recession back there in 2010, 2009, 2010, when we had all the foreclosures on the market. Got a lot of inventory out there, a lot of too many overpriced listings sitting on the market not selling. But 4,918 was the number last month, and that's up from January's number of 4,667. We're really going to need to see that level off. And if we follow the pattern that we did last year it kind of ramped up big from December to January, as you can see there. And then we took another pretty decent sized step from January's number to February's number. And then it leveled off. And the rest of the year, up until really October of last year, month over month, it was going down. And it finally reached that low point of last year back in really August was the low point. There was only 3,699 properties on the market in August. So we've added a full 1,000, almost 1,000 properties on the market since August. And a lot of that has occurred really in the last 2 months. But if you want to look at this year over year, this time last year, we only had 4,290 properties on the market. At that time, that was the highest point that we had seen. And then again, it started to go down again for the rest of the year. But I think it was going down. We were selling a lot of properties last year, but it was going down also because people were taking their properties off the market, obviously with the intention of putting it back on during our more busier season as we got into January and February. So a lot of those properties are coming back active now. Inventory is up 14.6% from this time last year. And if you look at 2 years ago, when we were probably a little bit short of an average market, we had a little bit less supply than you would say equilibrium number would look like. 2,720 properties on the market in February of 2023. So that represents a 2-year increase of inventory of 80.8%, almost 81%. So that's pretty significant. And again, it's numbers like this that you can understand why our values have gone down 6 or 8% in the last 2 years or 18 months, whatever it is. But again, this take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, just because, again, there was only 4,006 active properties on the market when I checked it this morning. But again, inventory, no matter how you calculate it, is up a full third, about 33% just since August. So we really need to get some of this inventory off the market. We've got a lot of overpriced listings sitting out there that could, frankly, it could stand to be taken off the market completely, or at least maybe getting a little more serious and getting that priced better, because there are homes out there, homes and condos still selling, but you just got to get them priced right. And so far, we've got way too many that are not priced right now that are sitting out there and affecting our inventory numbers. So anyway, that's the broader picture of the general real estate market in Cape Coral right now, the general residential real estate market. So let's really start to break these down now. And I always like to start off with the biggest category that we have here in the city of Cape Coral, and that's non-waterfront single-family homes. We have a lot of single-family homes in the city of Cape Coral. Most of them are not on a body of water. So let's go ahead and get into those. Okay, so off-water single-family homes, these are just single-family homes that are not on a body of water, either a freshwater canal or a saltwater canal or a lake or anything like that. Just non-waterfront single-family homes. Represents the biggest chunk of the Cape Coral real estate market, and we'll kind of follow that same pattern. So let's start off with the number of sales in this category. And again, this is the 2-year chart. We're going back to February 2023 on this chart. But we had 223 off-water single-family homes sell in the month of February. That's up slightly from January's number. January is always our slowest time of the year in pretty much every category for the reasons that I told you in that last segment. Basically, nobody's buying property, or very fewer, quite a bit fewer people are buying property or contracting on properties in November and January or November and December when they're dealing with the holidays and things like that. So we don't see as many closings in the month of January, but up to 223 from 199 in January. If you take this back 12 months, the activity in this category last February in 2024, we had 277. So that's 53 less this year than we did in February of 2024. It represents about a 19.5% reduction in sale volume, in sale activity. And if you look back 2 years ago, it was actually a little bit less in February 2023, but we were still kind of coming off of Hurricane Ian there, so activity was maybe a little bit less than it otherwise would have been. 264 of these sales in February of 2023. The high point on these last 2 years, the high months, have been consistently in May. So the high point on this chart is actually May of 2023, when 405 of these properties sold. And we nearly got there last year in May of 2024. There was 404 of these properties that closed in the month of May 2024. So we're, roughly staying that same pace. I fully expect that we'll get up into the high 300s at least by the time we get to April or May. And May will probably be the high month once again. But 223 off-water single-family homes sold in the month of February for the entire city of Cape Coral. And let's look at the median price on those. Here we go. 2-year chart again for the median price off-water single-family homes. $365,000 was the median off-water single-family home price that sold last month. That's up from January's number of 345, and that 345 in January was the low point on this 2-year chart. If we go back 12 months to February of 2024, the median price was $380,000. So based on those numbers, we're down about 4% from where we were this time last year. And if you look back 24 months ago, back in February of 2023, $385,000 was the median price. So the 2-year reduction in value is about 5.2%. Again, I think you can kind of, because these numbers bounce up and down a little bit depending on how many maybe new construction homes sold, or maybe more homes sold in the more expensive areas of the Southeast and the Southwest versus the Northeast and the Northwest areas that are on well and septic, things like that. I think if you averaged all these out, I would say we're probably looking somewhere in the 5 to 8% reduction of value here in the last 18 or so months. Probably closer to 6% for this category at least. What this doesn't always show, especially because there are a lot of new construction homes that sell in this category in any given month, and some of these builders, particularly the production builders that are selling those, the D.R. Hortons of the world, the Lennar, those kind of companies, are offering pretty significant incentives to buyers that don't always get reflected in the sale prices. So if you're buying a new construction home and the builder gives you $30,000 towards your closing costs and things like that, that doesn't necessarily wind up in this chart when it comes time to look at the actual sale price. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. There's still a lot of builders out there offering some really good incentives. So if you are in the market for a new construction property, get a hold of me because I know the ones that are offering the best incentives, and I can kind of steer you in the right direction on that. But let's talk about the inventory. Again, inventory has been an issue in this category as well as every category. It's maybe a little bit less so in this particular category, but it's still pretty stark what's gone on in the last few months. Here's the 2-year chart. We had 2,700 off-water single-family homes on the market in February. Again, this number is any single-family home, any non-waterfront single-family home that was ever on the market as active is what that number is. That doesn't mean there's actively 2,700 properties sitting on the market right now. In fact, as of this morning, there's 2,100 current available off-water single-family homes. So a fair amount less, but just the way this is calculated, if anything had hit active status in the month of February, it was counted toward that 2,700 number. But that's up from January's number of 2,557. If you go back 12 months ago, again, the previous high on this chart, at least in last year's high was February of 2024, and we had 2,421 properties on the market. So we're up a full 11.5% from that high mark last year. And if you go back 2 years ago, when the inventory was pretty low, 1,598 properties were on the market. So there's under 1,600 properties in this category on the market 2 years ago. That represents about a 67% increase in inventory over the course of 2 years. So this category, this off-water single-family home category, like every other category that we're going to talk about, has some inventory issues, and I think that's why you're seeing some of these prices soften on these median sale values out there. So that pretty much wraps it up for off-water single-family homes. Know that it's that time of year when Gulf access properties get really, really busy. So let's go ahead and talk about Gulf access homes. And what I mean by that is basically any single-family home that's on a saltwater canal or maybe the river that has access out to the Gulf of Mexico. So let's get into that. All right, again, Gulf access homes, basically any single-family home that's on a saltwater or brackish water, either canal or the river or something like that, that has boating access to the Gulf of Mexico. So following the same pattern, here's the 2-year chart for the number of sales per month. And we sold 56 of these properties in the month of February for the city of Cape Coral. That's up a fair amount from January's number, which is 41. January was the lowest level of activity, monthly activity, that we'd seen in the last 2 years on this chart. So we're back up to 56, and we're still shy of the activity that we had been seeing at this point last year. In fact, last February in 2024, we sold 73 of these properties. And if you go back 2 years ago, we sold 70 in the month of February 2023. Now, just like a lot of these other categories, the high marks on these in terms of the number of sales usually hit in late May. In fact, the high point on this chart was last May, where we sold 110 of these properties back in May of 2024. So we're going to see that number go up significantly I don't know if we'll hit that 110 mark that we hit last May, but I fully expect that we'll probably have at least 1 month where we break 100 sales in terms of Gulf Access single-family homes. But for now, February 2025, 56 total sales for Gulf Access homes last month. Let's look at the median price. Median price, $735,000. That's down slightly from January's number of $750,000. You can see on this graph, I mean, month to month, we kind of fluctuate quite a bit. When you're talking about 40 or 50 sales, you don't have a really big sample size. So if you had a few more of those beautiful homes like the one that we saw that was on the river at $2.8 million, if you have a few more of those sell in any given month, that'll drag your median value up quite a bit. So it bounces up and down a fair amount, but you can kind of see, especially in the last 12 months, that we've had a little bit of a noticeable decline in our median sale value. If you kind of average everything out, made this a little more of a line graph or something. Again, just a couple of months ago, we were at $800,000 was the median price for Gulf Access homes in the month of December. But if you take just January or February's number from 2024, 12 months ago, that was the high point on this chart. February of 2024 was the high median sale value month in the last 2 years at 852. So if you just took that month to this past month at 735, that represents a 13.7% reduction. But if you look back 2 years ago in February of 2023, the median sale value for Gulf Access single-family homes was only $764,500. So we're only down about 3.9% from where we were 2 years ago. And I would consider 2023 maybe be a little bit higher value year than 2024 was. So if you kind of averaged everything out on here and just kind of took a little more measured value, I think we're probably, again, about 6 to 8% down in the last year, 6 to 8% reduction in value. So if you took the same property 1 year ago, same property today, I think we'd be about 6 to 8% less value today versus 2 years ago. I think really this median price generally gets to be around $750,000, whereas last year, if you averaged everything out, would be around $800,000. But again, it just depends on how many sales were in the Southwest versus the Southeast, where there's a few more older properties or things like that. So 735 though was the median sale value for Gulf Access homes last month. And again, I think that represents about a 6 to 8% reduction in value over the course of a year. But let's look at the inventory. We really have consistently every year, this is one of the more active categories that we have in our main spring and winter season. And you can tell on this chart, this 2-year chart here, for the number of actives that hit the market in February at some point. We had 1,068 Gulf Access homes on the market at some point in February. That's up from January's number of 1,004. February was the high point last year. 2024's highest number was February, and that was at 905. So we just barely broke 900 as a high point last year, and now we're considerably over 1,000. And again, just the way they measure these, it doesn't mean there was 1,068 properties on the market right now. As of this morning, there was 948 Gulf Access single-family homes on the market. So it's a little bit less than that, but the pattern is still pretty much the same. We're up in inventory about 18% from where we were last year. And again, last year was the high point of the year. So very much hoping that February is the high point for this year as well, and we start to level off and hopefully go back down in the other direction, because we're not going to see this market stabilize very quickly as long as we've got this much inventory out there in any category. But if you look at this 2 years ago, we had only 530 Gulf Access single-family homes on the market in February 2023. And again, that was a few months after the Hurricane Ian, but still, that's a 102% increase in inventory in just 2 years. And again, we need that to level off and start to go back down the other direction, so we can get a little more equilibrium in this market. But if you're a buyer, that's really good news, because you still got plenty of homes to choose from out there, and your prices have been looking really good this year. But again, that's what the numbers look like on Gulf Access single family homes in the entire city of Cape Coral for the month of February 2025. Let's jump over to condos. Condos have been really taking a beating the last 18 or so months, so let's get into those. All right, condos and townhomes. Condos and townhomes isn't a terribly big category, so I kind of lump everything in together. So whether it's a low-rise condo, mid-rise condo, high-rise, coach home, townhome, basically all those things, on water, off water, I'm lumping everything together into one category here. And you know, condos and townhomes really have been taking it on the chin here in the last couple of years, unfortunately. A lot has to do with you know, the rising rates of insurance, and also there's some new laws are in place, particularly for the ones that are 3 stories and above, that require these condo associations to set aside a certain amount of reserves. They have to have certain number of engineering inspections every 10 years once the building reaches a certain age, and all of that adds up into higher costs, either higher monthly or quarterly costs to the condo owners. And those fees are just putting a little bit of pressure on the condo market, especially for the folks that are maybe a little bit older and on fixed incomes. If you have that monthly cost go up by, in some cases, double what it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it becomes very difficult to hold on to that condo, and you become a little bit more of a forced seller. And so we're seeing a lot higher levels of inventory on the condo market, just like everything else. But not very much buyers, not as much buyers in the condo market as in, let's say, single family homes or Gulf Access. So anyway, with that being said, let's take a look at the number of sales over the course of the last 2 years. This category is very, very heavily weighted towards that spring season, very much like Gulf Access homes are, but even probably more so in the case of condos and townhomes. We see really over double the number of the amount of activity in those spring months that we do in the other months. But anyway, 37 properties sold in the month of February 2025, about the same that we did in January. We sold 35 in January. Had a couple of really lower months there at the end of 2024, as you can see, but this consistently, the condo market consistently peaks out in the month of March. So I fully expect to see, I don't know if we'll get all the way up to 73, which is the number of condos that sold in March of 2024, or certainly not 75 as it was in March of 2023. But we very well may double the number of condos that we did this past month, at least maybe get up into the 60s. But 37 was the number of sales this past month. That's down from February of 2024's number of 43. And then 2 years ago in 2023, February's number was 45 condos that sold. And let's take a look at the median prices for those condos and townhomes. And again, these include everything from that, you know, little 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, $95,000 sale that we took a look at the beginning of this video. It includes that one, as well as the one that closed at $1.5 million, the highest sale of the month. So there's a pretty broad range in values for these condos and townhomes. But the right down the middle, down the center, the median price for condos and townhomes last month in the city of Cape Coral was $230,000. That's down from January's number of $259,000. And again, because we don't have a really big sample size in any given month, we kind of bounce up and down quite a bit, just like we did in Gulf Access homes. So you kind of have to read between the lines a little bit and kind of average these values out a little bit. But you can see a pretty evident pattern there for the last 2 years that values have been going down. And if you did just take that $230,000 median price last month and compare it to February of 2024, that number was $259,000 last year. That represents 11.2% reduction in values, in condo median price values from this time last year. And if you go back 2 years ago, in February of 2023, that's really when our median price kind of peaked out, was in 2023. A lot of the other categories peaked out in the spring of 2022, but condos actually hit the high mark in 2023, in that spring season of 2023, and $295,000 was the median condo price back in February of 2023. So we're down a full 22% from where we were 2 years ago. Whether or not that's the actual value, or are we really down 11.2%? We're probably down every bit of 10%, at least in the last 12 months. So this category is definitely hurting a little bit more than all of the other residential real estate categories, at least in the city of Cape Coral. And I fully expect that to continue for the foreseeable future. Condo sellers are really just taking it on the chin right now, and it's unfortunate. But we need to get rid of some of this extra inventory, and we need the condo market to kind of get revitalized and have some more buyers coming back into the area. And I think, unfortunately, the only thing that's going to do that is to get some of these sale prices down, so make this affordability go up a little bit, considering these monthly condo fees have increased in the last couple of years. But let's take a look at that inventory. Again, 2-year chart inventory, and again, these are just any condo that had an active status in the month of February. That totaled up to 568 condos and townhomes that were on the market at any given time in the month of February. I pulled the number this morning. Active right now, as of this morning, there's 486 condos on the market right now. So that number is a little bit less than it looks like on this chart, but nevertheless, the patterns remain the same. And we're up in inventory in February from January's number, just slightly though. There was 552 condos on the market in January of this year. So we're up just about 16 condos more this month versus last month. But if you look again, 12 months ago, the high point for 2024 was February of 2024. That was the high mark for this inventory last year at 527. So even from that high mark last year, we're up a full 7.8% in terms of the inventory right now versus this time last year. And of course, if you go back 2 years ago to February of 2023, we're up a full 64.5% from where we were in February of 2023. Now, there's a little bit of a little glimmer of hope on the horizon here for condos. I did look at the pendings, the condos that went pending in the last 30 days, and there's 62 of them. So again, I don't know if we're going to hit that high sale number of, what was it last year, 73 in March of last year. I don't know if we'll hit that, but I fully expect that we'll get into the 60s. Just whether or not those values are going to go up any at all, I don't anticipate. I don't think that median price is going to consistently go up anytime soon. So we'll keep an eye on these condos just like everything else. But if you're a condo seller right now, you maybe need to think of either really getting aggressive with your pricing, or maybe taking it off and sticking a tenant or something like that in there to help you kind of weather the storm, because I don't think condo prices are going to be going up anytime soon, certainly not this year. Maybe if we get some help with interest rates and things like that, and get some affordability back to these condos, maybe we'll turn things around, but not for the foreseeable future. So that's the story with condos and townhomes right now in the city of Cape Coral. If you're a condo buyer, definitely give me a call. They're fun. It's fun for me to help condo buyers. It's a lot more fun than helping condo sellers right now, just because I have to be the bearer of bad news in many circumstances. So definitely get a hold of me if you'd like to buy a condo. We'll get you a really good deal. I promise you that. But that's condos and townhomes for February 2025 in the city of Cape Coral. Let's wrap things up by talking about vacant residential lots, and then we'll get into the advice for buyers and the advice for sellers, and we'll wrap things up. All right, let's talk about vacant residential lots, and I'm going to specifically be focusing on non-waterfront vacant residential lots. There's really not enough waterfront lots to be worth covering as an entire category. There's just a lot more off-water vacant lots selling right now, and I don't want to include the ones that are waterfront because they're considerably higher than the off-water ones, and they kind of throw the numbers off. So we're focusing on off-water residential lots. Of course, not multifamily, not commercial, specifically residential single-family home lots. Here's the 2-year chart for the number of sales. This is the activity. I mean, we had 86 vacant residential off-water lots sell last month in February. That's down slightly from 93, but check out this pattern here for the last couple of years. Everything kind of peaked out in the middle of 2023 in terms of the number of sales, and then we've been consistently going down ever since then, at least in terms of the number of transactions in any given month. And I really think that has mostly to do with construction costs. And as these production builders that used to buy these packages of 20 and 30 lots sometimes in any given month, as they've slowed down the rate at which they are building these new houses because they're not selling as many now as they did 18 months ago, that's really translating over into the number of off-water residential lots that sell in any given month. And I think we can see that pattern very, very clearly in this chart, particularly since, summer of 2023. It's been pretty consistently. There's been, months that bounce up and down a little bit, but we're heading in the downward trajectory, at least in terms of the activity. So 86 lots sold last month. It's down from, again, 93 in January. But if you look 12 months ago, February of 2024 was a pretty strong month. There was 142 sales back in February of 2024. And if you go back to February of 2023, again, I think that's a little bit artificially low. It was only 94 back then, but again, we were just a few months removed from Hurricane Ian, and there wasn't a lot of activity going on back then. It obviously did really bounce back after February of 2023, and then we had some of the highest months in the last 2 years. But nevertheless, I think the pattern's pretty clear. How long that will continue, we'll just have to check back here every month so you can keep an eye on things. But let's look at the median price, because this is kind of the opposite that we've seen in the other residential categories for things like single-family homes. Prices, pretty clearly here from the last 2 years, median prices have been going up a little bit, very slightly, but definitely noticeable. And the median price last month for these off-water single-family home lots was $45,000. That was equal to what it was in January. And December actually had a higher month. We actually sold the median price back in December was $50,000, but that was the high point on this chart. I don't know really why that happened. I don't think there was any particular reason. I think they sold a few more southeast and southwest central utility lots, which are usually, in some cases, they're double what their well and septic lot counterparts are here in the northwest and the northeast. And that's usually in any given month the vast majority of the lots that sell are in this northeast and the northwest, simply because there are so many more lots up in the northeast and the northwest. There's so many more vacant lots left up there versus the southeast and the southwest, where most of those lots have already been built on. And so we just don't have as much inventory up there. But nevertheless, take it back 12 months. February of 2024, that month spiked as well. That was a $48,500 median price month. 2 years ago in February of 2023, $45,500. But again, if you kind of average everything out, I think there's just ever such a slight pattern of increasing values, especially when we look back in the early months of 2023, in the summer months, spring and the summer months of 2023. We were in the low 40s, 41,000, 43,000, 44,000. And then we just kind of crept up a little bit, and now we're pretty consistently at or above 45,000 in any given month. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. The values still seem to be holding, even though the activity has considerably gone down in the last 2 years. The number of lots selling has gone down, but the pricing has remained at least level, if not ticked up a slight amount. But let's look at the inventory, because again, it's the inverse of what we've been seeing in these other residential categories. We had a ton of inventory on the market 2 years ago, but we've consistently come down, and it leveled off a little bit, and it's gone back up in the last few months. We had 1,281 of these properties on the market in February. Once again, that's any lot that had an active status at any given point. That's all grouped together into that number, that 1,281. As of this morning, there were 1,134 off-water residential lots on the market in Cape Coral. So a little bit less than that 1,281 number. But nevertheless, that is an increase month over month, going all the way back to October. I think October of 2024 was the low point on this chart. There's 1,157 properties, and ever since then, it's kind of just trickled up a little bit, and now we're at 1,281. So it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues, or if maybe that's just a little bit of a dip or a crest like we see at this time of the year every single year. If you look back in 2024, you can see that little hump happen back then as well, and then it went back down. So that's probably more than likely what will happen. The inventory will kind of level off and come back down as we get into the slower summer months. But 1,281 properties on the market. Prices are pretty stable for these single family, at least as the median price looks. And that's the long and short story with the off-water single family home residential lots here in the city of Cape Coral. And that wraps up the categories that I'm going to cover this month. I'm not going to touch on rentals this month because we're running a little bit long and I'm losing my voice. But nevertheless, if you'd like the rental figures, just reach out to me. I'm happy to give those to you. But let's go ahead and move on to advice for buyers and then advice for sellers. And we'll start off for advice if maybe you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market as we sit here in March 2025. Let's get into that. So if you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market here in March of 2025, what is my advice to you and what do you need to be paying attention to and watching out for? Well, aside from just watching these videos every month, it's a great time to be a buyer. You need to pay attention to those inventory levels. As long as those inventory levels are high, you can really negotiate yourself a really great deal. And obviously you've got a ton of different choices. We just saw those inventory numbers I covered in all those different categories. So whether you're buying a golf access home for $1 million or you're buying a condo for $125,000, you got more choices now than you did certainly 12 months ago, and probably more choices now than you have in the last 10 or 15 years. So you can continue to negotiate yourself a really good price for these properties. I would pit sellers off of one another. So if you're going out there, maybe make 3 choices in the properties that you want to target, and then wait for the first seller to give you the deal that you want. The one thing I would say about that is, our prices, our sale values, believe it or not, the average sale value is still about 97.5% of the list price. So when these properties get priced right, they generally sell for pretty close to list price. So I wouldn't necessarily base your judgment on whether or not you're getting a good deal off of how much you're getting off of that list price. If that list price is already low to begin with, it might be a really good deal as it is. If a property is overpriced and you get 10% off, that doesn't mean you're getting a better deal than if a property was priced right and it was 10% lower and you bought it at list price. So don't pay attention to list price as much. You can really just do your numbers and figure out if that price is a really good deal or not. Sometimes you can negotiate yourself a really good deal, particularly if the property's been on the market for a long, long time. We just did one recently where property had been on the market well over a year. It had undergone several reductions, and we came in a little bit lower than even I was maybe comfortable with, but it ended up paying off and got the property at a really, really great price. So I think pricing will continue to be soft. I don't think we're on the precipice of a crash or something. So if you're out there thinking that you're going to just wait another 6 months and this deluge of properties is going to cause values to crash, I don't think that's on the horizon. I think there's not enough forced sellers on our market for that to happen. There are certainly sellers out there that are motivated to sell, but we don't see, like we did in 2008, when all these bank properties came on the market at the same time and they all had to sell the properties. So they were competing with one another and driving prices down considerably at a very rapid pace. We don't see that same thing now. So I think this is more of a general market correction, a normal market correction versus some abnormal big swing. But certainly you can get a really great deal right now, and the interest rates have just come down. I think they're considerably under 6, or under, I wish they were under 6. They're considerably under 7% as I'm talking to you right now for a 30-year fixed. So lock in a really great interest rate, choose your property carefully, and take your time and negotiate yourself a really good deal. And if I can help you with any of that, certainly get in touch with me. My contact information is right there. It's also down in the description of this video. And I'm loving working with buyers right now because I feel really, really great when I'm getting these folks a really good deal. It's a little bit different story with sellers, but that's my advice to buyers now. Enjoy the time while you have it now. It is your market, and enjoy this time while it lasts, because it won't last forever. Okay, so if you're a seller in the Cape Coral real estate market, what is my advice to you, and what do you need to be paying attention to here in March of 2025? it's a rough time to be a seller. Too much inventory out there, too much overpriced inventory out there. If you absolutely don't need to be in this real estate market selling your property right now, don't be in it. If you don't want to price your property where it needs to be to sell, maybe just sit on the sidelines for a little bit, take your property and put a tenant in it if you don't live in it right now, or maybe just decide to stay here for a little while, because this market will turn around. There's still plenty of demand here. And in fact, if we didn't have these inventory numbers, there's enough demand right now that our prices would still be going up if we were at inventory levels that were around 2.5 years ago or something like that, because there is still a lot of demand for Southwest Florida and Cape Coral. Folks want to be here. They want to be here for the sunshine and the weather and all that good stuff. So long term, we're going to be just fine. Short term, if you really do have to sell your property, you need to get it priced right, and you need to do whatever you can to make that property look better than the 24 others that are in the same price category out there sitting on the market right now. The listings that I have, it's very difficult to sell right now. Even the ones that are priced pretty aggressively and the ones that look really, really nice, we're getting a ton of showings, but not getting as many offers. And the simple fact of the matter is because there's 30 other properties out there, and these buyers, as they should be, are going through every single one of them. So a lot of buyers are out there, but they're visiting every single property. So we're getting showing after showing after showing, and not necessarily translating over into offer after offer after offer. So, you just need to be smart as a seller. You need to pay attention to what the market's doing right now. The market's causing pricing to be really a little bit soft, and you need to get out ahead of that. So don't pay attention to what Zillow says your property is worth. That Zillow number is based on an algorithm, and it might be old information. You just really need a competent realtor, somebody that watches the market every day to really dig into the numbers and see, where you need to be to get out ahead of this temporary downturn and get your property priced right. And if I can help you with that, I'm certainly willing to do so. I've had to turn down a few listings here recently just because we couldn't get the price that we needed to get to sell them. And unfortunately, that's the way the market is right now. But if you are serious about selling your property, give me a call. I would love to hear from you. 239-297-1583 is my number. It's right on the screen. It's also down in the description of this video. And if you wouldn't mind maybe hitting your car alarm button, shutting that off, that'd be fantastic. So if you're a seller in this real estate market, get a hold of me. I'll be happy to give you some advice on where you need to be. But if you don't have to be in the market, maybe sit this one out for a little while. All right, so if I had to summarize the entire Cape Coral residential real estate market here as we sit in March of 2025, I think there are still some really good things going on in this market. Number one, if you're a buyer, of course, this market's fantastic for you. You've got a ton of choices out there. You're getting prices that are better now than they were 12 months ago. And I think you're able to negotiate a little more now than you have been in certainly years past. And we had a really strong seller's market for a number of years here in really since 2019 or so. And the last 24 months have been a little bit more of a buyer's turn to sort of take the reins and control pricing a little more. So I think we still have a ton of demand here in the city of Cape Coral. There's still plenty of people that are coming down from other areas of the country. The demand is high, but the supply is twice as high. We've got high, basically 15-year highs on our inventory in basically every single category out there. And we need to run through that inventory one way or the other. Either we need to have some sellers start to pull those properties off the market and sit this one out for a little while, or they need to get more aggressive and get those properties sold so we can get this market turned around sooner than later. And it will happen. I think, again, there's not a big crash on the horizon. There's not enough forced sellers. There's a lot of sellers out there sitting on 2% and 3% interest rates that don't need to sell, and they're sitting on a low payment. So maybe they're out there because they want to see if they can get their number for their property, but if they don't get their number, they're not going to sell it. And I think I'm seeing that more and more often. That's why I say if you're sitting on the market right now, you're not getting any activity, you maybe need to pull that property off the market and sit this one out until this market comes around again. And it will. I think we're in a pretty normal market correction right now, and things will start to turn around here sooner than later, especially if we get some interest rate reductions, which looks like we've already got a little bit of relief, and hopefully we'll get some more relief as we get into the later months of the year. Hopefully if inflation numbers come down we'll have the 10-year treasury will go down a little bit, and those 30-year fixed and adjustable rate mortgages will come down as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and make sure to tune in every single month to these videos. I'll let you know what's going on in the Cape Coral real estate market. But overall, I think we're in pretty good shape right now. We just need to get some of this extra inventory out of there, and until we do, I think pricing will be a little bit soft. So take advantage while you can if you're a buyer in this real estate market. If you're looking to buy in the next 2 or 3 years, you might want to start looking now in the next 6 or so months, and get yourself a really good deal, because again, it won't last forever, just like everything else around here. Eventually it'll go back to being a seller's market, and no matter if you are a buyer or a seller, I would love to hear from you. Of course, my contact information is right there, but it's also down in the description of the video. And thank you so much for being here. I know these are longer videos, but I value your time, and hopefully you got a little good information out of this. And if you did, if you wouldn't mind, hit the like button for me. And again, if you're not subscribed to this channel by now, I hope you will hit that subscribe button so you can be around not only for these every single month, but also for those weekly videos with just really good, great information. Sometimes we're looking at really cool properties. So I'd love to have you around for those. If I can do anything for you, get a hold of me. But thanks again for being here, and I'll see you on the next video here in just a few days.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.